What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another brand doctor live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about easy steps to build a strong personal brand on social media. So for all of you solopreneurs out there, coaches, consultants, just subject matter experts, you could be lawyers, you could be a doctor, you could be any of the above. This video is going to be for you specifically, because there's a lot of folks out there that have a tremendous amount of expertise and don't know how to position it online, because online is a big place. It's a big space. And, it's very, very different than, a local community. So we got my man Owais Qureshi in the house once again. What's shaking, my dude?
What's up, Henry? Can't believe it's middle of the week already, man.
Dude, this week is flying, right? So
yeah,
I'm like, how's February half over already, right?
Seriously.
So it's nuts. It's nuts. So here's a good point, right? I just want to use you for example for a second, if you don't mind. I promise I won't embarrass you.
Sure.
Here is an individual who's put in a tremendous amount of effort into their online presence over the past 2 years. And I just want to commend you on the amount of work that you've put into this and the strides I've seen you make over the past couple of years of really getting more confident in front of the camera, getting confident in the messaging and your positioning and your work and everything in between. So, you started out, when we first started working together, you started out with, I'm stuck. I suffer from analysis paralysis. I am making this situation very complicated when it doesn't need to be. So can you walk us through some of that a little bit as somebody that was actually experiencing that stuff?
Oh, man. A couple of things were happening. And I was actually talking to someone about this earlier today. A couple of things were happening at a behavioral level. I was feeling anxious every time I was getting up and speaking in front of people. So my public speaking ability, I recognized that needed some work, and that resulted in me feeling conscious, constantly, like I lacked confidence. I lacked confidence in my brand. I lacked confidence in my capability, even though I knew on the back end we were able to bring some really good quality work for our clients, and we've already had a good long track record of that. However, when it came to presenting that to the world, there was I would probably put it like in 2 words: anxiety and uncertainty. And when you present that to the world, when you put your foot out there with anxiety and uncertainty, guess what they're going to buy? They're going to buy the same thing: anxiety and uncertainty. And then they're less prone to hiring you. They're less prone to trusting you. They're less prone to having confidence, even though you have all this great work that you're delivering to your other clients behind the scenes, but they're less apt to buy into that work because you're not selling it.
And that's tough to hide, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're in front of that camera or you're online. Like, people are going to pick up on those nonverbals. They're going to pick up on maybe even your voice, whether it's, if it's on audio, you're going to pick up on that. That's tough to hide.
Yeah. And there was also, just a tendency to not be in front of the camera because of that. It was like you said, it was analysis paralysis. It was the fear of judgment. It was, I'm just not good enough. I don't know enough. And so all of those things required work. All of those things also required for me to gain clarity, and getting on this show and showing up here was part of that. But there's a lot of back end work that even continues to happen even today.
Yeah.
And so it's not just me showing up over here and talking about a specific topic. I'm putting in the work behind the scenes to make sure that I'm keeping up with the current events. I'm keeping up with certain aspects of branding and the perspective that I want to bring forward from all different walks of different businesses that we serve. And so, you know, there's a significant amount of due diligence that's involved on both mine and your part to make that happen, right? So, but all that to say, Henry, is that yeah, where I was initially, it was I would sum it up with anxiety and uncertainty, a lack of certainty.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I know for a fact that you're not alone. You know, I know for a fact that you're not alone. There's a lot of clients that I've served over the years that struggle with exactly that thing. And so they're sitting to themselves going, where the hell do we start? So I got a business, I got a brand, but I don't know how to take it online to the next level. And this is what we're going to talk about today is, yeah, Amy Timmeyer says, you're not alone always. You know, I knew it. You know, I knew it. So I want to talk about two strong pieces today that are going to help you build a very strong personal brand. And it's quite easy if you allow yourself to accept these two foundational pillars. Once you accept them, you're going to be in a much better state of mind, and you're going to be in a much better position to take it to the next level. You know, here's Priyanka. You know, I suffer from the same anxiety when I'm in front of the camera. Yeah, it's a different, you know, when you're staring down the barrel of this, camera, it could get very, very, very emotional. It could get very intimidating, right?
So we can have another discussion all around that.
Oh my God. Right. So, you know, this brings up a really good point. So I'm going through a masterclass right now. And LeVar Burton is the instructor, right? Remember the guy from Reading Rainbow?
Geordi from Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Geordi from Star Trek. So I'm listening to him and I'm going through and wow, what an amazing human being. Like I love his spirit. He's got a really, really beautiful spirit about him. But he was talking about getting comfortable in front of the camera. And I was getting goosebumps because I had told this to clients in the past, the same thing. I made it kind of bigger than how he made it. And I might have scared a couple of my clients, to be honest with you. He made it sound a lot more inviting than I ever did. But LeVar said when he looks down the barrel of the camera, he sees one person, and it was his son.
Wow.
And everything that he spoke to or read to or was trying to communicate to, he pictured his son in front of that lens. And that just calmed him down and made the whole situation much more relaxing because he says, I'm talking to my son. And I was like, wow. So my version of that was every time I look down the barrel of the camera, I see hundreds of people that need my help. That could be intimidating to some people, especially if they don't like public speak. So that he kind of helped me understand that. So, you know, I'm okay with speaking in front of a lot of people. So I take that for granted sometimes. So I'm going to use LeVar Burton's version of how to get more comfortable in front of the camera because I think it's going to help a lot of people, especially if they have that anxiety talking in front of large groups.
Yeah. And, you know, someone gave me a pointer around this as well. Is like, look, you have to prime yourself as you're going into that setting and tell yourself it's not about you. And I think that was also happening for me as well. It's like I was making it all about myself and how I'm going to present myself. And I really did say it. I was like, look, if I'm in the world of setting and maintaining a perception. Mm-hmm. And so what sort of a perception is it going to create if I'm showing up, stumbling on my words, I'm not fluid in my speech, right? And I'm just at a loss in general. And so I was making it so much about myself that I didn't realize that I was there to serve. And so that's what he told me. He was like, look, tell yourself, it's not about me, I'm here to serve. It's not about me, I'm here to serve. And now when you make it about the people, like you said, when you make it about the people that you're there to help, the conversation completely changes, your tone completely changes, your style of delivery completely changes.
Bingo. So let's get into that first foundational pillar, right? And that first foundational pillar is consistency, right? Consistency is more important than perfection. And it just goes to show, when you put in that work over time, it's going to get incrementally better. And you're going to start to feel more confident. Like that's why I wanted you to kick off the show like that, because you're a walking case study of this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I will say, I still struggle with it on a daily basis. It's, it is one of those things that I have to really take under control and say, perfection is the enemy of progress. And so I ask myself, okay, well, if I'm going to constantly keep shooting for perfection, then historically, I know that's going to create inaction. And I know what the cost of that is. It's slowing down momentum. It's not creating any traction in my business. It's not creating any top of mind awareness for me or my business. And that's not helping people.
No. So what are some examples of consistency?
Sure. So consistency on my part, and I'll use you as a case study now. Consistency is what we see with Henry. When I first talked to Henry, I was like, Henry, you know what I see and what I would like, what my desired outcome with all this is to be able to just pull out my phone at any given minute, turn on the camera, and express my thoughts so fluidly and throw that up on social media without giving it a second thought. And I see, and I've made this observation on several occasions before as well, that I guarantee you, so any of you in the audience that follow Henry on social media, go ahead and open up your phone, go to Instagram, and tell me if you don't see Henry show up on your feeds right now, either in your stories or in your actual feeds, right? I can certainly, with absolute certainty, say that Henry's there at one point or another, daily, if not more than once or twice on a daily basis. But that's consistency. That also came through practice. That also came through with the aspect of, hey, I'm not going to constantly shoot for perfection, but I'm going to continue to work on this and build it up and continue to improve on what was there before.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that helped me become so consistent is seeing the long game, seeing the big picture, not expecting thousands of dollars of revenue to come in after 30 days of putting in the work. You know what I mean? That's going to get you down real quick. I heard Mel Robbins talking about this earlier today. I was in the gym listening to my YouTube Laws of Attraction channel, and she was talking, and she said the worst thing you can do is be in a situation where you feel like you're behind. You're in a studio apartment. You haven't changed out the cat litter in 4 days, and you feeling down, and then you get somebody to come over to you and says, oh, that's all you got to do is create a vision board and start to envision what you want. And then they start spending the next day, putting up a mansion and a big car and this and that and vacations and all of that. All that does, she says, is make you feel even more less than, because it's so far away from where you're at currently. She said, what you should pay attention to is the bridge, that little incremental step to take you from where you're at right now to where you got to get to next. Maybe it's just putting your shoes on. Say you're running a marathon. Then after that is you got to get out there and start running. After that, maybe you get out there and start running when it's raining to get used to it, just in case it rains day of marathon, right? And then you increase your mileage every day, a mile. And next thing you know, 10 days later, you're 15 miles deep into your training. And so those incremental steps. So that's how I looked at it. I said, brick by brick, step by step, I will build this house.
Yeah. You know, I'm reminded of, so I don't know if you've ever watched that documentary about Bud's training for Navy SEALs. This is an old documentary, but anyways, they always talk about one evolution at a time. And essentially it's that same concept of breaking it down and making sure that you're only focused on focused on the task at hand rather than the long-term what's at the very end, because of course, it's very easy for us to get overwhelmed by that. It's not to say that don't have a clarity in your vision, but Mel Robbins is right. Making sure that you've created that bridge and you're focusing on that journey, focusing on that bridge and each incremental step that gets you closer to your vision.
That's it. That's the key. So Pranker
be present in the moment.
Yeah. He said, how did I master this? That's exactly how I mastered it, is just looking at the big picture and knowing that I'm not going to be able to build this house in a week. It's going to take time. It'll take years to put together this mansion of mine from a social media standpoint and creating my presence. So understanding that consistency is huge. And listen, I've gotten to the point now where I could whip out the phone, stare at it and say, I have 2 minutes of conversation that I want to get off to. And you'll notice when I do my live streams on social, I always say hi to whatever platform I'm on. Like there's a person there. And eventually there's going to be hundreds of people there, right? Because the views are going to come in over time. And I always say, hey, good morning, Facebook. Good morning, Instagram. I got something on my mind. Today's topic of the day, today's question of the day. And then I ask the question and then I get on with it, but I keep it brief. And here's where I'm going to share a little pro tip for you that I've been doing just recently. So I noticed when you go live on Facebook, it asks you where you want to go live or where you want it to post at, right? And you have options, just publicly and or your story, your Instagram, your Facebook story. So you only get 15 seconds in a story. Remember that on Facebook, right? So what I do is I select both. So I'll do the live stream. And then in the first 15 seconds, I make sure I put my hook out there. Like today's live stream was about investing in your life's work. And so in the first 15 seconds of that live stream, I said, today's topic of conversation is investing in your life's work. What does that mean? What is your life's work? And then by then the 15 seconds has stopped, right? Has added up, right? So now I'll go in, I'll do like a 2 or 3 minute thing real quick, and then I'm out. Now when the story posts, it's a teaser to the live. So I make sure my hook is in there in the first 15 seconds so that people that watch the story get hooked. And then you could just hit the top left button, watch video, and that'll take them right to the live stream.
Interesting.
The rest of it. So that's a little pro tip there. So that's the reason that's how I'm leveraging the story format and the live stream format together. Now what I'll do is I'll go on Instagram and I will do the same live stream, but just on Instagram.
Wow.
Okay. Sounds a little repetitive, doesn't it? Well, if it's only 2 minutes long, it doesn't need to be this long-winded thing. And 9 times out of 10, guys, my live stream on Instagram is a little bit better than the one on Facebook because I did it a second time. So same thing here. I do the live stream and I'm out. But here what I do is I take the live stream and I download it to my phone. Then I use a little editing software. You could use iMovie. You could use CapCut. I use CapCut because it's a little bit more, it's got more features, right? And I will take that 2 minute live stream or 3 minute live stream and I will cut it down to 58 seconds. And I will post it as a YouTube short. So now I'm out there on a YouTube short. So my 3-minute conversation got condensed to 60 seconds. I'm putting that out as a short. Now, YouTube shorts are one of the prime ways to grow your YouTube account. So, because they're competing with TikTok and Snap and all of that, right? So now I'm using that one piece of content in multiple platforms, which is helping me grow my personal brand. And the messaging is consistent and it's native to the platform. And that's something, you know, I learned from Gary Vee a long time ago, but that's what's going to eventually grow this omnipresence on social media for you, which people are going to be dialing in to pay attention, because people that follow you on LinkedIn may not be on Instagram. People on Instagram may not be on LinkedIn, YouTube, right? You know, so that's the reason why, because you may say it's very repetitive. It sounds like a lot of work. Like, why are you doing everything multiple times? Because you gotta cover all the bases.
Exactly. And, you know, again, it's like you said, Henry, growing the brand means creating that wider visibility, creating that wider awareness, because not everyone is necessarily going to be in the same building, right? And when I say the same building, like whether it be YouTube, whether it be Instagram, so you're hitting up different networking events, so to speak. You're hitting up different conferences, right?
Yep.
Where you can get on that stage and announce that this is Henry Kaminski, brand doctor, and this is what I do, and lend your perspective on how you're doing it.
And that's the key. That is the key. So Progress says, wow, that's powerful. Thanks a lot. Yeah, no, it's just these little tiny tweaks you learn along the way, right? So consistency, very, very important. A huge foundational pillar to help you build a strong personal brand online. Now, let's get to the second one, congruency. Congruency. So trust is the congruence between what you say and what you do. And that's by my man, Peter Drucker. So what are people buying? What are people tuning into? You. So what if you're one way, and I've experienced this, you've heard me say this in multiple live streams in the past. I've met people in person that I've followed online, and they are not the same person that they are online. And unfortunately, that's very disappointing for me. They're putting on this show, but when you actually meet them, they're not that warm. They're not. And that just kills congruency. It kills credibility. It kills authenticity. Because you feel like you're getting one thing, but they're bait and switching you and giving you another in person. And that sucks.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that that's also a level of their conviction in what they believe versus what they're conveying, what they're communicating. And that's what, you know, that's what I define as the congruency, or what I call brand presence, is being able to go out there and put your message out there visually or verbally in such a consistent manner, but is delivered with confidence and conviction. But the only way that it's done with confidence and conviction is if you truly believe in what you've already put out there.
Right. And that's hard to fake.
Exactly.
I mean, well, it may be easy to fake for some people, but for me, that would be extremely hard for me to fake or to try to superficially come out there and be one way and then act a different way in person. You know,
that's right.
Amy says this might be my superpower. Random kids and animals are comfortable with me. I always say I smell like a grandma. Yeah. That smell may be your superpower, Amy. I don't know what to tell you. Oh man, well, I appreciate you sharing that. But to the point, people are going to see that over time. And when they meet you in person for the first time, surprise them by being the same person, because there's a lot of skepticism out there today. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are anticipating you to be a douche when they meet you in person, or to blow you off, or to act like you're some big shot, and they're expecting that, and that's a shame, but that's kind of where we are. I mean, I wish I was lying to you, but when you actually show up and meet them for the first time in person, and you are that person that's been on this screen for all this time, you're going to light them up in such a positive way. And those are the things, these are the small, practical, tactical, easy things that you can do to build a strong personal brand on social media.
That's right.
Yeah. So
look, man, I would say that's even more critical when you're working in an environment that's purely virtual. You work with clients that you probably have never met in person, and they're overseas, or they're over here, across the coast, and you haven't had an opportunity to meet with them in person. But think about the level of trust that they would need to have in you in order to invest 5-6 figures into a 4 or 5 month engagement with you, right? Or a 3-month engagement with you, whatever that looks like. But I would say that it's even more critical for you to convey that authenticity, to convey that level of congruency in how you present yourself and what you say, because much of your communication is done non-verbally. Only 7% of what you say is communicated through your words. The rest of it is all done non-verbally. Yeah, exactly. The rest of it is all your non-verbal cues.
Yep. So, yep. That's so, and again, very hard to control when you're in the moment, you know,
but people pick up on that. People will pick up on that. And so that is what's going to help you generate trust. That is what's going to really be a complement to the credibility that you're already trying to establish when they're not already speaking with you. So that interpersonal, that interaction that someone might get when you're now in a virtual meeting with them is going to be a supplement to that.
Very true. I love what Bob says here. People expect others to show up in a mindset of what can you do for me? When we are our authentic self, we immediately connect as humans. Here's another thing that LeVar Burton said in that masterclass that really resonated to me, and what Bob just said made me think of it. LeVar said, a lot of people in this world live life asking what the world can do for them. But the people that really make a difference and impact are the people that ask, what can I do for this world?
Absolutely.
And that rang a bell for me.
Yeah.
And that was really, really strong. Highly encourage anybody who has masterclass, the app, the subscription, the membership, anybody that has that, that's watching, I would highly recommend to watch LeVar Burton's masterclass. I mean, it's about storytelling. That's what got me interested in it, because I want to become a better storyteller. But man, some of the things that he says, and he talks about how he played Kunta Kinte and Roots, and how he transformed into that person. And there was one scene that he literally lost himself. Like he literally forgot who he was. He wasn't LeVar Burton in that scene. He was Kunta Kinte, and he was explaining that story and how he actually he felt like he came like out of body. And he said it was just incredible to listen to him.
Really went into that character. Yeah, that was a really moving story,
especially back then.
Yeah.
Right. Back then, we didn't have Black Lives Matter. We didn't have movements that we have today, and it was almost taboo to come out with a movie like that when it came out. And so you know, it's ironic. It's Black History Month as we're recording this. And you know, I've just been dialing into a lot of the African-American history. I think just coincidentally, and I come from I grew up in Long Branch, New Jersey. It was extremely racially diverse. And it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because I got to learn about culture, different cultures, Hispanic cultures, Asian cultures, African-American cultures. And it made me a well-rounded person. And it just made me see like there's many different sides to this world. There's many different flavors to this world, you know, and I looked at it as a gift, because not a lot of people, you know, not a lot of people get a chance to do that. They're either in all, you know, they're either in all Black neighborhoods or all white neighborhoods, and there's not a lot of diversity, and over time that you'd be surprised. You know, I went to a college, my undergrad in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, which was like Amish country. And I saw how the white guys and gals that went, some of them, I'm not all of them, but how they acted when somebody of a different race came by. And I said, wow, this is very chilling for me. You know, me, I didn't bat an eye. I grew up with multi-cultures, right? But for somebody who didn't, they felt very uncomfortable. And they're not bad people. They weren't racist. You could just see that they were uncomfortable. And it just goes to show how that being in a diversified cultural environment helps you become more well-rounded, in my opinion. And I think I don't know how the hell we got on this conversation, but again, it all comes back to being congruent with who you are as a person and being consistent in what it is that you're trying to communicate with your audience. So we're a little over time, but I do want to share with you a couple of tools that you can use to help you build a stronger personal brand on social media. One being StreamYard, the software that we're using right here, right now. We've been using it now for over a year. It's a phenomenal platform. I'm streaming on 4 YouTube platforms. 4 Facebook platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, all simultaneously as we speak. You want to talk about getting out there and being omnipresent. It's all about allocating your resources and using the right tools to get you out there. StreamYard, highly, highly recommend. If you want access to it, you can go to uniquedesignz.net and then go to resources. And you could get a subscription to StreamYard. It's an affiliate thing. I'm not going to lie. It'd be helping me out a little bit if you subscribe that way. What about collaborations? You know, collaborations are huge, guys. I was telling a client a couple of weeks ago, because she was a little intimidated with getting in front of the camera more consistently as she continues to put her new brand out there. And I said, if you're scared to do it alone, then do it with someone. Find a colleague in the space that's willing to do it with you. Or she has team members. Do it with a team member. Let that team member interview you.
Yeah.
And leverage your relationships to, and that's something that you and I talked about months ago. We said, you know what? I'm going to throw it. We could talk about this in strategy calls all day long, always. Or you can start co-hosting with me. What's going to get you a stronger outcome?
This right here. That's right here. Yeah.
You know, I that's what I said to myself when we were on that call. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was like, I could coach this guy up until he's purple, but is he going to do it? But will he do it with me? And look it's like you just figure it. You figure it out. Yeah. The longer you do it, the more resources and the more aha moments you're going to get.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, when you challenged me with that, it put more pressure on me to make sure that I wasn't coming in and diminishing your brand or blemishing your brand in any way. So I needed to level up to that same level of quality that you were providing to your audience already. And so, again, that was another layer that I took a look at, and I was like, look, okay, yes, go in the first session, second session, third session, but make sure that every single time you're self-evaluating and improving on what you did the session before. And so, to me, that aspect of it was even more of a pressure to level up as much as possible.
Yeah. Listen, when the only, in my opinion, the way you could get better and incremental, the way you could get better faster is to get around people that are better than you and be okay with that. There's a lot of people in this world. I was one of them that was very intimidated by those types of people. So I stayed away from them. So I lost years.
You should want to gravitate to people that intimidate you.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not talking about like physically intimidate you, but I'm saying like if you're intimidated by their level of intellect, if how they present themselves in a public in a public speaking environment, and if you're inspired by that, but you're also equally intimidated by that, gravitate towards that, or at least put yourself in the mindset of that. I think it was I remember a Jim Rohn quote that talked about the same thing. It's like go into a room full of people that challenge you, that pressure you to level up. And I'm just very loosely
and do it. Yeah, and do it. But that's a tough crowd to find. I will say, you really got to dig deep to find that crew, because some of that crew, they're going to want to keep you down. I noticed in these mastermind groups, not everybody has your best interest in mind. So be careful with the crowds you surround yourself in. Be careful. We could talk about that another day.
Yeah.
But to your point, always, when you find that group, it could be one person, it could be 5 people.
Yeah.
Be the first one in and the last one out.
Exactly.
You'd be surprised what you'll learn.
Yeah. A level of self-awareness is also involved in that. Ask yourself why you're intimidated in that setting. Ask yourself what about that setting is making you feel anxious, and keeps you coming back for more. Mm-hmm. And again, this is one of those things that was a personal endeavor for me. This was one of those things that I struggled with in a particular high caliber networking group that I was constantly going to. And that was one of the factors that brought me to Henry. So, but again, I started to really look into under the hood and say, okay, well, why is it that particular group that's creating this sort of an appeal for me? What is it about that group that makes me want to get up and go there 7 a.m, stand in front of a group of 25 very polished people and deliver my 60-second pitch in the most stumbling manner, even though I had rehearsed it multiple times the day before, and then continue to go back over and over and over again. And it's, at the end of the day, even though their desired outcomes are around how many referrals we can give one another, for me personally, it was because I felt in that room I needed to level up.
There you go. I'll leave you with this. This was a conversation between me and my wife recently. And I normally don't share these types of conversations because they're a little deep, but I'll share with you, and then we'll end this. But this was something so my wife comes from a very polished family. She went to a really good college, Fordham University. She works corporate. She's pretty high up in her work, in the corporate ladder. because she's been with the company for a long time and she's extremely polished, like very, like the word she uses and everything. And I'm kind of a scrappier type of guy. I don't have that polish, or I kept telling myself I didn't have that polish. And so we get into this argument because she was like, you could be a little bit more polished online. I hear you do these live streams all day because her office is upstairs. And she goes, sometimes you curse a lot and sometimes you're, and I got defensive. I said, well, I'm not this polished guy. If you're looking for some polished guy, it ain't me. And she says, but you are, because I've heard you. She goes, Henry, you got your master's degree. Not that everybody that has a master's degree is polished, but she goes, you've been around some very polished people and you've been around a while. Like, there's no reason why you're telling yourself that you're not polished. So that like triggered something in me. And it made me think like, maybe I am polished and I'm just suppressing it because I don't feel like I am good enough to be polished. Again, all up here, all trash talk.
Yeah.
So the next day, so let's just say that night didn't end very well because I was butthurt and I was angry. I was angry. So I slept on it. I woke up the next day. Me and my team member had a strategy call together, and my wife was in the kitchen, and she heard me talking and doing this whole role play thing with my coworker, my team member, and she came into my office after we got off the call, and she said, "See, I heard you. You were extremely polished on that call. So you can do it. You just gotta want to do it." And she says, if you want more polished clients, then you have to be more polished. Start drinking your own Kool-Aid, she told me. And I said, all right. So from that day, I made it a point to chill out with the cursing and be a little bit more polished. You can have that fun personality. You can, don't lose that, Henry, because that's who you are. You don't want to be all rigid and like a robot. Don't lose that. But the cursing and no, you don't need that. You don't have to do that. So that I just want to share with you. You'd be surprised what you're truly capable of when somebody on the outside looks in and says, you got it. Because sometimes we can't see the label from the inside of the bottle, can we? So I'll leave you with that. Everybody here today that watched, I just want to say thank you, Amy and Bob, and I saw Michelle pop in and Priyanka. I wanted to say thank you to all of you guys, and I just want to leave you with this. And thank you, Awais, for sharing a lot of vulnerability today of where you started and where you're at today. But every one of us has the ability to get out there and make a difference and make an impact. It's our choice. So you got to think about the reason behind what you're doing. We talked about this offline when we were practicing for this call today. Yeah. We talked about what's the desired outcome that you want and are you all in on that? Yeah. So we all have the yeah, what does success look like at the end of accomplishing that or through the journey of accomplishing that? And that is what I want you guys to focus in on. You guys get, and even me, listen, I don't want to be sitting here pointing fingers. I think we all at one point or another get caught up in the minutia. Oh, I have to go on Instagram and Facebook and this and that and blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. You would do all of that if the reason was big enough. So find that and work backwards And then there'll be nothing that could get in your way because that reason is so big. It's what your life's work here. This is what your life's work is all about. And people are going to see that through consistency and through congruency.
Yep. Journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
That's it. What is it? Day one? Or one day? Or day one?
Or day one.
I love that. I love that. I don't know why I haven't found that sooner. That didn't come into my life that quickly. I'll be honest with you. That just came around. I just saw that recently and I said, oh, that's one hell of a quote.
Ding.
Yeah. One day or day one.
Or day one.
So that's what I encourage you guys that are watching this. If it's your day one, then embrace the suck because you're not going to be a hit right away. Your first video is going to be trash. Your second and third or fourth, it's probably not going to be that good either. But if you stay with it, I could promise you after 30 days, you're going to start getting good. Yeah. And then look out because then you're going to start to get creative. And then that's when you start adding things in. Like, we've been adding slide deck images in now and things like that. We're going to be doing a lot more of that in the future, but you start adding and compounding your skill set and and eventually you're going to look like a damn pro.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Way over today. I can't believe it's almost an hour, but it's a good time. It's a good time. I'm going to stay on this topic for a little bit because I think building your personal brand on social media is so important because people don't just want to learn about how much of an expert you are in your in your craft, but who you are as a person outside of business. What do you represent? Who do you stand for? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? That's well-rounded. That brings them in.
Yeah. That's what creates relatability.
Yes. And relationships.
That's right.
And relationships.
Right. Yeah.
So have an amazing day, everybody. And we will catch you on the next one real soon. Take care.